all of us are probably one crisis away from maybe needing a little help, one medical crisis, one flood, one house fire, whatever it may be, those sentinel events. There are very few of us that aren't just one big trauma away from needing a little support. And that's our neighbors, and that's the folks that we go to school with and work with, and it's us too.
Welcome to the With You at Every Step podcast. We address your healthcare questions and help you navigate life's challenges. Our guests share their expertise and real-world advice related to care for older adults, grief and healing, and pregnancy and parenting. Every Step is a nonprofit healthcare and human services organization offering dozens of programs that are there when people need us most. Learn more about our free and low-cost services at everystep.org. Thank you for listening. And here is our host, Holly Carver-Kimm.
And welcome to today's program. Our guest today is Jen Gross, the Vice President of Community Health Services at Every Step. And Jen, thanks for stepping back into the ring again today to talk with us.
Always a pleasure, Polly.
Today we're going to discuss WIC, Women, Infants, and Children, that program, as well as SNAP benefits and how they differ, what kind of services each one provides. And both of them are very important to young mothers and to families throughout the country, and especially here in Iowa. Can you tell us, first of all, Jen, let's just start with WIC. I think a lot of us are very familiar with that. That's been around for a long time, hasn't it? And it really provides not just for the mother after she's given birth, it provides services beforehand too, doesn't it?
Yes. It absolutely does. So WIC, again, is a federal program that is implemented by the states, and it's a supplemental nutrition program. And just like you said, the WIC stands for Women, Infants, and Children. And WIC services is folks who are eligible are low-income pregnant women, breastfeeding folks who are postpartum, so who have delivered and are in that postpartum period, and children up to the age of 5 who are at some sort of nutritional risk.
Okay. And, I grew up during a time when, you had just a really short idea of that's what that is about, okay? And for some reason in my head growing up, even as a, young adult, I thought, well, that's all about providing formula for babies. And then as I, grew older, had children of my own, I'm a very big supporter of breastfeeding. And, lo and behold, WIC is not just about formula. Of course, some mothers do need that, but it does support breastfeeding too.
It does, actually. Not only does it support breastfeeding initiation and then the continued breastfeeding throughout, that child's first very formative months and years. There are things like the breast pump program. And so if you do have a family that the pregnant or postpartum individual is going back to school or going back to work, you can rent a breast pump. WIC allows you to rent a breast pump to be able to, free of charge, to be able to supplement or make sure that you can continue to keep up your breast milk supply, as well as be able to pump for your kiddo when you're not right with them. They also have a really cool breastfeeding peer support program where you've got folks who they themselves are lactation consultant trained, but they themselves have breastfed their kids and know all of the ups and downs and all of the ins and outs of what that means, not only kind of on a practical level, but what it means to juggle other children, or what it means to maybe breastfeed multiples, or to go back to school or home. So there are a multitude of ways that WIC supports. If a person is interested and can do it, they want to make sure that they can support that breastfeeding. But fed is best, and so formula and other alternatives are an option as well.
Absolutely. When does a pregnant person first come in contact with WIC? When should they first reach out to Every Step to be introduced to WIC or go to one of the WIC offices?
I would say that would be one of those things on the first to-do list when you get a positive pregnancy.
Wow.
You go to the medical provider, you find out and you confirm that pregnancy is there, and you're able to start to get some of the benefits that come along with a pregnancy if you're eligible. And one of those could very well be the WIC program. The cool thing about WIC, and we'll talk about the difference with SNAP here in a minute, but the cool thing about WIC is it's not money that is used. It is actually the purchase, the getting of the actual food. And so while you have a card and you go to the grocery store, and I'm sure we all have seen, there will be next to the price tags on maybe a cereal or milk, it'll say WIC approved. You go and you get what your allotment is based on all of the demographics that you get, whether how far along you are in your pregnancy, or whether you're postpartum, or how many children under 5 you have, or if you're pregnant at home. But it's not actually money that you have to spend. It's the allotment of the actual food items. And so these, not only do you have the ability to go and get those things from the grocery store, the nurses at WIC and the dietitians at WIC will help you understand what's best for your body at the different times nutritionally. They've already done all of the research, and they have all of the best understanding of what what you need nutritionally for yourself and your growing baby. And so that all of that homework is done for you. And so you really do, if you see that WIC approved, that's going to be the good stuff.
So do I understand that correctly, that then you would have like a WIC card that would allow you to get those items at the price that they put there on the shelf?
That's exactly right. And it is like a debit card that we have now. And so your monthly allotment gets loaded, and then you have that to be able to go shopping. One of the coolest things I think they've done in Iowa is they've added farmers market to that benefit. And so folks are able to use that WIC benefit to go to local farmers markets to get the fresh fruit and produce there at the markets, which, there's just nothing better than like Iowa tomatoes and corn in the summer and things like that. So to be able to go and get those fresh from the farmers markets, plus be able to maybe expand your interest in your kiddo's interest. If you're going and shopping and seeing the other things that are available, maybe not in your local grocery store, but at the farmers markets, it just is expanding palettes as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. I didn't realize that. So here we are, we're learning together. So then how does that differ from SNAP? What is that program, and how is that different from WIC?
So SNAP is a supplemental nutrition assistance program. And that is what we're going to think of traditionally as food stamps back in the day. And so that's, again, a federally funded program coming down through your state. But there's not an age limit as far as child on that. So like you'll remember, we talked about pregnant individuals, kiddos under 5 and breastfeeding individuals for WIC. These are families with children. And so a lot of families either get both depending on their eligibility, or once they no longer are able to get WIC services, they might be eligible for SNAP benefits. So if your kiddo turns 6 and you're not pregnant and you don't have any other younger children, you may still be able to get the food assistance program. It's just not in that specific category of the women, infants, and children. The other difference, besides kind of the age criteria for eligibility, is that this actually does equate to dollars. So instead of having a list of the foods you can purchase, you get the card loaded with X amount of dollars, and there's still things that you can buy and you can't buy with those funds, but there's a little bit more autonomy in the decision making around what foods you can use those funds for.
That is a wonderful benefit. I'm just thinking about all the families that have very young children, but that they've got older children too, and they don't have to then worry about the one child or other children are not getting the benefits that the baby's getting. That's very far-sighted, I think, on behalf of the people who came up with these programs.
One of the things that, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
One of the things that I think has been so incredible, I've been working in this field for a really long time, and I've been able to see, especially in central Iowa, especially Polk County area, watching how our demographics have changed and watching how we are growing and thriving with all of our, our micro communities that are coming in, and our programs have done such an incredible job of not only providing things like interpretation and translation services for folks who maybe English isn't their first language or they haven't grown up in the United States, but they've done an amazing job. WIC has done a fantastic job of taking a look at the folks who utilize their service and what do we need to do to make sure that we're inclusive of all of the folks that are using our service. So maybe the first fruits and vegetables of someone who grew up and was raised by families that have lived in Iowa for generations and generations, maybe those first fruits and vegetables aren't the same as a family that was raised in Thailand or in Central America. And so to make sure that they're inclusive of all cultures and representing good and nutritional food choices and options for all of the vast variety of folks who live and work in this area has just been incredible.
We've come a long way in that regard, I think, of the inclusivity, remembering not everybody, has sweet corn in the summer like we do in Iowa, although if they haven't had it yet, they're going to love it when they do, right? But another thing that I think we've come so far with is just the debit card type of system that you're talking about. Because we both, remember the days when there were the little paper checks or whatever it was. But I remember, you'd be behind somebody in the grocery store. And personally, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for this person, having to look like I need help. And of course, there's no shame in that. But now that we're able to make it look like any other transaction at a checkout counter, I just think that's, why did it take so long to do that? But I suppose it's probably, there wasn't the technology for a long time. But that's another area where I think we've really grown a lot just as a society, I guess.
Well, and when we look at the way that we do business, you're exactly right. If you look, there are, whether you choose to continue to write checks from your bank account or you choose to utilize cash, almost everywhere you go, there is going to be some way to pay with a card. There's going to be some sort of swipe or tap or something that you are able to use that for your transaction for payment. And so it makes very logical sense that we continue to use that for all of this is just another form of currency. It's just as legitimate. It's just as, it spends just the way that someone who would write a check from their own checking account or pay cash out of their own pocket would. There are very specific eligibility criteria that these are programs that have been around for a very long time. And so those elected officials and those folks making those regulations and those eligibility criteria have thought long and hard about it. And so we definitely know that all of us are probably one crisis away from maybe needing a little help, one medical crisis, one flood, one house fire, whatever it may be, those sentinel events there are very few of us that aren't just one big trauma away from needing a little support. And that's our neighbors and that's the folks that we go to school with and work with. And it's us too.
Absolutely. How do you find out about those eligibility requirements for either program?
You can absolutely go to our website at everystep.org. We can help get you hooked up with all of the, we can do eligibility criteria, having somebody call through a care coordinator. We can also help link you if you look up in your favorite search engine and look up Iowa Health and Human Services or Iowa HHS. There should be at that landing page, there should be eligibility criteria that you can look and see if you and your family might benefit from WIC or the SNAP benefit.
Well, another thing I just have to throw out there is another thing that I think is so impressive about EveryStep is, there are many, many in our community for whom English isn't their first language. And we have an incredible interpretation program that can help these individuals and families that want to apply, but they don't understand the paperwork because that's not what they were brought up reading. And those kind of that kind of help is also available through our website. And of course, just by calling us. So that's out there too.
One of the great public partnerships that EveryStep has with WIC is that we have our maternal child health nurses and our dental hygienists that go and co-locate in our Polk and Dallas County and Madison and Warren County WIC offices. And so we will have folks there. Not only do they have RNs, WIC has their own RNs and nutritionists, but we'll do, if there's a dental screening or a developmental screening, or you have a question about maybe a health-related topic, aside from maybe breastfeeding or the nutritional aspects, typically you can find an RN, a BSN, or a dental hygienist co-located at a WIC clinic. And so you really are getting a full range of services, which, when transportation is tight, or, you can get out of the house with 3 kids, maybe once or twice a week, not to go back and forth to all of, a bunch of appointments in one week. The way that our public health folks are working together to make sure that the communities that need us have access is pretty innovative. And so we partner with our WIC providers at Broadlawns pretty closely.
They have great services over there too. That's a great partner to have. Is there anything else that you think people should know about WIC, SNAP, or the difference between them you want to add?
And I think the best, if you have questions, there's just a wealth of information on Iowa HHS and at everystep.org. It really it explains the eligibility criteria. It has lists of the foods that are WIC eligible, and the difference between those and the foods that you can get on SNAP if there are. And so it goes from a very high level to very, what kind of applesauce is WIC approved. And so you can get all of your answers there. But ultimately, if you have any questions, we'd love to be able to help you. And that our EveryStep website would be able to point you in the direction of a care coordinator that would be ready to help you answer any questions and point you in the right direction.
Absolutely. That web address is everystep.org. And then if you want to go to everystep.org/care, there is a form for you to fill out that will put you in touch with a real live human being who will talk to you and get things set up for you and help you out. So Jen, thanks again for being on the show today. Jen Groves is the Community Health Services Vice President for EveryStep, and she's always a wealth of knowledge. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Polly Carver-Kimm.